Chapter 1, A Chance Encounter. Crud. His hand hit the dashboard as he said it. I can't stand this car. That about sums up Michael Jones's life. Crud. And he can't stand it. 40 years old, a wife of 15 years he doesn't know how to connect with, and 2 kids he barely knows. Add to that a boring job that doesn't challenge him and hardly pays the bills. In a word, crud. Where had his life gone? Out of college, he and his wife, Amy, had been so filled with dreams. Their lives were ahead of them, and nothing seemed impossible. They were full of potential and wanted to do so much, but now they were nowhere near where they had hoped to be. Michael loved Amy, but it just wasn't what it could be. They had grown apart through the years, and he had no idea how to fix it. The kids are great, but again, there was just no connection with them like he thought normal families should have. And his job, definitely not what he wanted. A man his age making $40,000 a year with no upside? This was hardly what he had imagined for his life. It was what it was, and it seemed like he was stuck with a dead-end job and poor relationships. This wasn't the success and happiness he and Amy had planned for. But his life was about to change. This car is the worst, he thought as it convulsed and finally died. Going about 30 miles an hour when it stopped running, he guided it as it coasted to a stop along the road. He was on his way to a sales call, and he had never taken this road before. It was a long, winding road that acted as a shortcut between 2 major roads. Not many houses on this road, he observed. After the car rolled to a stop, Michael got out and walked around the car. It wasn't as though he would be able to tell what was wrong from walking around. He knew zero about cars. He knew how to put gas in it, turn the key over, and that was about it. No smoke, he thought. That has to be good. He popped the hood and looked at the engine. All the wires seemed connected. All the caps were on. He didn't have any idea what to do. I should have taken auto shop class in high school, he thought. Michael reached inside his jacket for his cell phone. He figured he could call a mechanic friend he knew and see if he could get some help. He flipped the phone open and saw the worst. No cell coverage there. Just my luck, he said out loud. They can put a man on the moon and clone a sheep, but they can't put a cell site up where I need it. He looked around trying to decide which way to start walking. Up ahead about 200 feet was a bend in the road, and he couldn't see what was further on, so he decided to go that way, just hoping there might be a house beyond the bend. As he walked, he kicked the gravel along the road. Frustrated, alone, and stuck. That's how he felt right now, about this situation and life in general. As he turned the corner, Michael came across something he had never seen in real life before. Sure, he'd seen many in magazines and on TV, but never something like this with his own eyes. Nice pad. Michael found himself standing in front of the most beautiful home he'd ever seen. Home may not even be the right word for it. Right at the roadside was a huge gated entrance. The large brick and wrought iron fence stretched at least 500 feet along the roadside, and the gate was at least 10 feet high. Behind the gate was a house that had to be over 10,000 square feet. It was a white plantation style that had 12 two-story pillars across the front, which made sense, since the sign at the side of the gate said 12 pillars. It was magnificent. Michael stood in front of the gate for a few minutes, just looking in awe at the structure. Finally, he snapped back to reality and realized that he had to get his car fixed. He didn't see any other houses nearby, but he didn't know how to get to the house in front of him either. Just then he saw an old man in white coveralls emerge from what looked like a workshop just to the right of the driveway. The old man walked toward the gate. When he got about 25 feet from the gate, the old man spoke. "Can I help you, young man?" Yeah, I hope so. My car broke down, and I can't call anyone because my cell phone doesn't work out here. Can I borrow a phone?" "Well, why don't you let me take a look at the car first? Maybe I can fix it." The old man was about 70, Michael figured, about 5'11", medium build, pretty good shape it looked like. He was obviously the caretaker for the mansion. The old man opened the gate with a push of a button on a remote he pulled from his coveralls. When he walked through, he asked Michael where the car was. "Just back around the bend," he said, pointing back down around the road. The old man stuck his hand out and introduced himself. "Charlie's my name. What's yours?" "Michael. Nice to meet you." As they walked, Charlie prodded for more information. "What kind of business you in?" "Sales." "You make a good living at that?" "No, not really." The old man was silent for a moment and then asked, "Do you have a wife and kids?" "Yes, a wife, 2 kids." "Well, that's good." When they reached the car, Charlie popped the hood and looked around, fiddling with wires. "Let me try to start her," Charlie said. Michael gave Charlie the keys, and he turned it over a few times, but it wouldn't start. The gas gauge read half, but Charlie suspected that it was broken. The problem was that Michael was out of gas. Well, everything seems to be in order, so I'm betting that you're out of gas and your gas gauge is just broken. Let's go get some gas from the workshop. They began to walk back to the workshop together. As they passed through the gates, Michael asked about the house and the owner. So, who owns the house? One Mr. Davis owns that house. Built it 20 years ago with his wife. Very successful businessman. Owns a bunch of different businesses. He has his hands in a lot of different things. Must be quite successful. How big's the house? 14,000 square feet in the main house. You can't see it, but there's a pool in a pool house. It's about another 4,000 square feet, and a 1,500 square foot guest cottage in the back. Wow, Michael replied. He must have a lot of money. Yep, it's something all right, but Mr. Davis isn't just about the money. He prides himself on being successful in everything in life. Life is more than just money. That's easy to say if you have some, Michael said. I can see that. But Mr. Davis was successful before he got his money. In fact, do you see those pillars along the front of the house? Each one represents a different area of success that Mr. Davis says is important for life. He built the house that way to represent his philosophy on life. Oh, yeah? That's pretty cool, I guess. Just then they arrived at the workshop. Would you like a cup of coffee? Charlie asked. I just brewed a pot before I saw you standing at the gate. Sure, I'll take a cup. Michael looked around. The workshop was almost as big as his house. It had every tool you could possibly imagine. How do you like your coffee? Oh, black, thanks, Michael replied. Charlie poured the cup and then brought it to him. There you go. Thanks. Michael took a sip and looked out the window at the main house. I sure would love to be that successful. I'm sure you could be if you wanted to, Charlie said. Well, I've given it my best shot the last 18 years, and it sure doesn't seem to have done much. You've worked hard, have you? Charlie asked. I've worked very hard, harder than most. I work long hours, work overtime, everything. Well, that may be your problem, Charlie suggested. Working hard is a problem? Michael asked, looking confused. No, working hard isn't a problem in and of itself, but Mr. Davis always says that the first pillar of success is to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. I don't get it, Michael said. Mr. Davis has those 12 pillars of success I was telling you about. The first one he talks about is personal development. Success comes where you develop yourself beyond where you currently are. So you have to work harder on yourself, improving yourself, than you do on your job. But I was always told that if you work hard, keep your nose to the grindstone, and eventually you'll get ahead. That isn't true. Not exactly. You see, you will get the job in the company and the salary that goes with it that you deserve because of the level of skill you have. So you can work as hard as you want, long hours and everything, but as long as you stay at the same skill level, you'll never go beyond that level of pay and promotion. So how do I get ahead? You start working on yourself, Charlie said. Maybe I don't get it, Michael said, taking another sip of coffee. Okay, let me explain, Charlie offered. You say you're in sales, right? Yeah. Okay, you make a certain amount of money based on how good a salesman you are. You can work harder and harder, but you will only make so much because you are only so good. The key is to become a better salesman. The way to do that is not to put in 5 more hours of work on your job. It's to start putting more work into yourself, Michael. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. So how do I do that? Read books, attend seminars, study the best salespeople, and then apply the information. Implement what you learn. Work on integrating the ideas into your everyday work. That way, when you make the same 10 sales calls each day, you get more sales because you're a better salesman. Okay, so what else does Mr. Davis say about personal development? Charlie chuckled. Well, he says a lot of things, Michael. So give me some. I need all the help I can get. Why do you think you need so much help? Well, I'm stuck. I loathe my job. I feel like I have no upside. I don't feel like I provide very well for my family. My car breaks down on the side of the road. You name it. I need help making my life better. I've worked so hard, and I still just seem to be spinning my wheels. The words spilled out so fast it surprised even Michael. Well, since you put it that way, let me think. Charlie paused and looked up at the ceiling. After a few moments, he raised his right index finger. Here's one for you, he said. Let me make sure I get it right now. Mr. Davis says, every life form seems to strive to its maximum, except human beings. How tall will a tree grow? As tall as it possibly can. Human beings, on the other hand, have been given the dignity of choice. They can choose to be all or they can choose to be less. Why not stretch up to the full measure of the challenge and see all that you can do? Charlie smiled, proud that he got it just right. But I have tried, Michael protested. I'm not suggesting that you haven't. Maybe you have. The idea is that most people quit. Maybe you've given up, Michael. That's my impression anyway. With all due respect, it sounds as though you've worked hard, found that you're stuck, and perhaps have given up. Maybe it's time to stretch and grow again. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. I just want things to change for me and my family. Charlie stood up and began to walk to the back door. Come with me. We'll get you some gas, and on the way back to the car, I'll give you one last thing to think about. Charlie and Michael went out and got a gas can, filled it, and walked back to the car. Once they were there, Charlie took the few gallons of gas he had brought and poured it into the tank. Give it a try, Michael. From inside the car, Michael turned the key and pumped the accelerator. After a few seconds, the engine came to life. I can't believe it, he thought. I guess I should get that gauge fixed. There was a knock at the window. Michael rolled it down and looked up at Charlie. Thanks a lot, Michael said. I'm a little embarrassed running out of gas and all. What do I owe you for the gas? Oh, nothing. Nothing at all. Consider it a gift from Mr. Davis. Okay, Michael said, smiling. I will. Tell him thanks for me. You know, I owe you one more piece of Mr. Davis's advice, Charlie said as he leaned down closer to Michael. Oh, yeah, what is it? Michael was excited. You say you want things to change for you and your family, right? Yes, I really do. Mr. Davis says that the only way things are going to change for you is when you change. What are you going to change that will in turn change your life? If you keep on living like the way you are now, you will continue to produce the same life that you already have. That's the way it works. Michael just stared out over the front of the car. His mind was racing. There were lots of things that he wanted to change. There were lots of things he knew he needed to change. Charlie slapped the side of the car and said, Okay, that's it for one day. You think on that, Michael. Then you feel free to stop on by sometime, and I'll tell you more about Mr. Davis's Pillars of Success. He handed Michael a business card that simply read Charlie on it, with a number. That's my workshop number, the best way to get a hold of me. Call the next time you're coming through. I will, Michael said, I will. He smiled and put the car into drive and added, Hop in and let me give you a lift to the gate. No thanks, I need the exercise. But I do have one last thing, Charlie said. What's that? Get that gas gauge fixed, Charlie said with a grin. That you can be sure of, Michael said as he started to pull away. Charlie stood and watched Michael drive away. Nice boy, he thought. I hope he does come again. Chapter 2. Live a Life of Health. Michael knew that he would be passing by the estate where Charlie worked, so he called the number Charlie had given him and asked if he could stop by. It had been 3 weeks since he had run out of gas in front of Mr. Davis's estate. In hindsight, Michael considered it serendipitous, allowing him a chance to peek into a world he had once dreamed of and now seemed so far away. The fact that he had met Charlie, though, and Charlie's willingness to share the secrets of Mr. Davis's success was something that had started to reignite Michael's passion for excellence that had once burned bright. Certainly life hadn't changed overnight, but he had been thinking about Charlie's words about changing himself and making himself better ever since that day Charlie challenged him. Michael realized that he had let himself go. He had stopped dreaming. He had become complacent. He was blaming circumstances rather than taking responsibility for himself and his situation. But he was determined to change all of that. Since that day 3 weeks ago, Michael had written down a list of 10 things about his life that he knew he could change if he applied himself. He looked at it each day and tried to work on at least one of them, just to make sure he was acting on what he knew was true. They were small steps, but they were steps in the right direction. That was more than he had done for himself in years. When Michael had called Charlie, Charlie said it would be great to see him again and invited him to swing by and chat. Michael told him what he had done since their last visit, and he was hoping Charlie would tell him some more about Mr. Davis. Charlie assured him that he would be glad to. Michael thought it was somewhat strange learning about Mr. Davis from Charlie, but he realized that a guy like him was hardly going to get a chance to spend much time with a rich, powerful, and busy man like Mr. Davis, so he was happy to take what he could get. As he turned into the entrance, Michael saw that the gate was open just as Charlie said it would be. He began down the driveway and could see that Charlie was out in the garden to the right of the house. Michael pulled his car into one of the parking places next to the workshop and walked over toward Charlie. He looked toward the house, wondering if he would ever see any of the Davis family, perhaps even Mr. Davis himself. The sun was shining beautifully, and when Charlie looked up to greet Michael, he held his gloved hand up to shield the sun. "Hello, Michael. Good to see you again." "Well, great to see you too, Charlie." Charlie motioned to the garden. "You don't mind if I keep on weeding and pruning while we talk, do you?" "No, not at all," Michael replied. "I'm glad you called to stop by. You were coming through anyway?" "Yes, I have an appointment this afternoon, but I wanted to drop by if you were around." "Well, I am certainly around. What's on your mind?" "I've been thinking about our last conversation. Quite a bit, actually." "You have?" Charlie asked as he knelt back down to work on the flowers he'd been tending to. "What have you been thinking?" "Just about needing to change my life and work on myself. I'd given up and just accepted mediocrity. I realized that I want more out of life. I mean, seeing Mr. Davis's house and all, it gave me a little vision of what I could become. Not that I'll ever become as rich and successful as Mr. Davis, but it showed me that more is possible. Does that make sense?" "Certainly does, Michael. Seeing what others have accomplished can provide you with a positive ambition of your own." "This may seem strange," Michael said, "but I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind telling me the other 11 pillars of success, as Mr. Davis puts it. I was thinking that from time to time maybe you and I could get together and you could tell me more about Mr. Davis and how he got to be where he is in life." "I think that would be fantastic, Michael. I get the feeling that you are ready to grow some." "So, what do you want to know?" "Well, why not just tell me the next couple of pillars? I'm assuming you know them all, right? Sort of like the 10 Commandments?" He said this with a slight chuckle. "Well, they aren't quite the 10 Commandments, Michael, but they are important nonetheless, and yes, I know them quite well." "I have 30 minutes. Next time I'll schedule more if you can do it, but maybe you could tell me the next 2 today and I can begin working on them." "Did you work on the first one yet?" "That's important because you have to apply what you learn," Charlie said. "I did apply it. I made a list of things I can control to change in my life, and I've taken a couple of small steps towards improving." "Very good, Michael. I'll be glad to tell you the next 2 then." Pillar number 2 is total well-being. Mr. Davis believes in what he calls 3-dimensional health. What's that? Well, when you say health to most people, they think of your physical well-being, but Mr. Davis thinks of it as more than that. He thinks that a person is made up of 3 parts, the body, the soul, and the spirit, 3 dimensions. Okay, I could guess, but can you explain it a little more than that? Sure. We have our bodies, that's obvious, but we also have our soul, which is basically our intellect and our emotions, also our will. And then we have our spirit. That's the part of us that transcends this world. It's the part of us that is designed to be eternal. The fact is that most people pick up one of those and work exclusively on that area. Mr. Davis thinks that we need to work on each area because they're interdependent. What do you mean they pick one area and work on it? Well, you have some people who work on their physical health. Now, don't get me wrong, we need to work on ourselves because for so many people that's an area they neglect. Have you ever noticed that some people take better care of their pets than they do themselves? Their animals can run like the wind, but they can barely make it up a flight of stairs. Those who take care of their physical health many times neglect the other two areas. Other people are all about the intellect and forget their bodies or spirits. And then there are people who are so spiritual they're no earthly good. Mr. Davis believes that you function best when you live in balance. Are you in balance, Michael? Michael looked down at his 40-year-old stomach. Not bad, he thought. Well, I'm in pretty good shape. I could work out a bit more. What about your intellect, your emotions, and your spiritual life? Charlie pressed. I admit I don't read much. I watch television when I have free time. That won't do you much good, Charlie broke in. Michael continued, As for my spiritual life, he just let it go because he didn't know how to answer. Cat got your tongue? Charlie kidded, looking up. No, I just don't do much with that. Well, it is also very important, the most important. Mr. Davis says that it's like a three-layered onion. You peel each layer back until you get to the core. Spiritual is at the core, and it is the most important. Then the second layer is the soul, and the outer layer is the physical, the body. Each part rests on the one below it, and it is only as strong as the layer below. That make sense? Yeah, I guess so. So where do I start? Well, you can start by going back to your roots. Did you grow up with any spiritual influence? Yeah, sure did. Went to church every week. Well, there you go. Start there. Read good material that will help you reflect on your spiritual life. That's a good place to start. What about the physical? I don't get much time to exercise. You need to start, even if it's just a half hour a day. You're married, right? Yeah, I sure am. Ask your wife to go on a nightly walk for half an hour. She'll love it, and you'll get some exercise. The idea is to get started. Mr. Davis always says that we should take good care of our body because it's the only place we have to live. Well, that's a good idea, Michael said. Michael looked at his watch and realized he only had another 10 minutes or so. He wished he'd given himself more time. What's number 3? Chapter 3, The Gift of Relationships. Ah, yes, the third pillar of success. I'm glad you asked this because this is the perfect setting for discussing this. The third pillar of success is to make the most of the gift of relationships. The gift of relationships? What does that mean? Mr. Davis likes to say that the greatest gift the grand designer gives is the gift of other people. Yes, relationships can be hard, but they're also what the joy of life is made of. They can be hard, all right, Michael said. Michael, relationships represent the most beautiful highs of life as well as some of the most tormented lows of life. It is all what you learn to make of them. That is why it's good that we are discussing this now and here. Michael looked around him and saw nothing but flowers, dirt, yard tools, and a bag of fertilizer. Here and now? I don't get it. Mr. Davis says your family and your love must be cultivated like a garden. Time, effort, and imagination must be summoned constantly to keep any relationship flourishing and growing. He paused, looking down around him, and then continued, Michael, tell me about your family. I have a wife, Amy, and 2 kids. Mike Jr. is 11 and Jennifer's 9. They're great. And the relationship, is it great? You ask too many questions, Michael deadpanned. No, the relationship isn't great. It used to be. Amy and I were so in love. We had dreams. We were excited to set out on our own. And then we just fell into life. Work was hard. We had kids. We let things slip. And we woke up one day wondering who the other person was. I see. The weeds crept in. The weeds? Yes, like a garden. The weeds crept in, Michael. This is why it's good to be here, in the garden. You see, relationships are the backbone of our existence. We need to cultivate them as best we can. When you are on your deathbed, you want your family there with you, sending you on your journey. That is the sign of an excellent life. You can gain every possession in the world, but if you lose your relationships, what good has your life been? No, instead, you must tend to your relationships, like this garden. I'm listening. Michael, how do you like my garden? It's beautiful. Mr. Davis is lucky to have you take such good care of it. Yes, it is beautiful, if I do say so myself, Charlie said with a grin. But it didn't get that way by itself. No, I made it that way. This plot of ground we're standing on could be one of 2 things, the beautiful thing that it is, or a collection of weeds. Maybe 3 if you count completely barren. Left to itself, it would be weeds. But with some care and work, with a little imagination thrown in for good measure, it has become something beautiful. And your relationships can, too. So how do I do that? Michael asked. Do you want to do that? Charlie prodded. Michael didn't answer right away, but then said, Yes, of course I do. That doesn't sound too convincing. I do. It's just what? It's just hard. Of course it's hard, Michael. Life is hard. Success is hard. If you want easy, you can have it, but you won't get much of anything else, especially not anything of value. That which is valuable is hard to get. That's why so few go for it. Do you think that tending to these gardens is easy? No, but they sure look great when you get them done, and they provide enjoyment. And the neat thing is that once you get them up and running, then the maintenance is easier to keep them going. If you let them get bad, though, boy, watch out. Lots of work then. Tell me about it, Michael said, somewhat dejected. Don't despair, Michael. You can still pull it out. Let's give you a plan for tending to that garden you have at home. Remember that I said it takes lots of time, effort, and imagination? Yeah. Well, let's think how you can begin to apply that to your marriage. And a brief parenthetical statement here. These principles work for any relationship. They work for work relationships, people at your church, your friends, anything. Time, effort, and imagination. Okay, so what do I do? Let's start with time. Spend more time with Amy. Spend more time with the kids. Spend more time with your friends. Remember, life is always about the relationships, and the way to build relationships is by giving them time. But it's hard with work and other responsibilities, Michael argued, albeit pathetically. That is why we say effort is needed. People are hard. You are hard to be around. I'm hard to be around. It's a fact of life. People aren't perfect. That makes it hard to deal with them. But we all need people, especially if you want to be successful. You cannot succeed by yourself. It's pretty hard to find a rich hermit. Again, Michael chuckled. That it is, I suppose. It takes effort to make the time. It takes effort to put up with another person's faults. It takes plain old effort. Michael checked his watch. Okay, I got it, but I have to get going. What about imagination? Imagination just means that you have to see with your imagination what the relationship could be. Use your imagination to take Amy out for a date like you used to. Use your imagination to plan a fantastic vacation for your family. Use the creativity that you use on the job to be successful in your family. I guess I have been neglecting it lately. and you have the weeds to show for it. Now you have to go, but here's your assignment. The next time you come back here, I want to hear about this garden you're growing through time, effort, and imagination. Well, I may have to pull a few weeds first, Michael said. That's okay. Speak to your wife. Ask for forgiveness. Tell her what you want to do. Pull those weeds and plant some beautiful flowers so they may bloom. Michael stuck his hand out, and Charlie took it. They shook hands firmly as Michael looked Charlie in the eyes. Thanks, Charlie. I appreciate it. My pleasure, Michael. Chapter 4. Achieve Your Goals. Max Diner is exactly the kind of place you would expect a maintenance man to hang out. Small place next to the road, gravel parking lot with pickup trucks populating it, the smell of fried food hitting you when you're still 10 feet from the front door. In other words, perfect. It had been about 4 weeks since Michael and Charlie had last met, so Michael called Charlie to arrange getting together. Charlie had to run some errands and knew a great little diner that would be in the middle for both of them, and that's how Michael had come to make his first trip to Max. He saw Charlie talking with some other old-timers in the back corner, all of whom were wearing the same ubiquitous uniform of estate maintenance men everywhere, white coveralls. When Charlie saw Michael come through the door, he excused himself from the others and met Michael halfway into the diner, walking somewhat slowly. "Hey, Michael, great to see you. You look good." "You do too, Charlie, but you're walking a little slow. Everything okay?" "Just age. Us old folks take a while to get places. You'll see." "Okay, just checking on you." "Well, let's grab this table right here," Charlie said, pointing to an empty table that looked just like you would expect a table to look in an old diner. The two men took their seats as a waitress came over and asked if they would like coffee. "Absolutely," Charlie said. "Michael?" "Yes, please." "I'll be right back," she cheerfully said. Well, she's in a happy mood, Michael noticed. That's Sue. She's always happy, it seems. Great attitude. "So, Charlie, how long have you worked at 12 Pillars, anyway?" "Since the very first day. Even while it was being built, actually. I've been there for the whole thing." "So what did you do before that?" "I was in business. I did okay for myself. When I retired, I realized I loved to take care of things and fix things, do gardening and the like, so that's what I spend my days doing now." Charlie changed gears. "So how's Amy?" Oh, she's good, really good, actually. That's the main reason I wanted to get together with you, to tell you about how things have gone since you taught me about gardens. Well, do tell, Charlie prodded. It's simple, really. I just went home and started thinking about my relationship with Amy like I would if I was planting or maintaining a garden. Not that I'm Mr. Expert Gardener or anything, but the metaphor really worked for me. It gave me something to use as an example. The main thing is that I just started putting more time into the relationship. How so? Sue, the waitress, arrived with their coffee, and Michael waited for her to set it down. Anything to eat today? Not for me, Charlie said. Just coffee for me. Thanks. Back to the matter at hand, Michael said with a smile. To answer your question, I started making time first and foremost by doing a night each week where I get a babysitter and we go out for something Amy wants to do. Her choice of restaurant, movie, bookstore, whatever. She loves it. It's been like a ray of sunshine on a flower. That's great, Charlie said. I'm so glad for you. You'll have to keep me posted as it progresses. Just remember that once a flower blooms, it still needs water and sun to keep it from wilting. The work isn't over when the color comes out. I'll remember that, Michael said. So what else is new, Michael? How is work and the rest of your life? Life's pretty good. As I've said before, my major challenge is work. I just wish I was further along in my career. I feel like I'm not living up to my potential. What are your goals for your career? Charlie asked. Goals? That may be my problem. I guess I don't have any goals. That may be why you're achieving what you're achieving, then. I think you may be right. You know, I always hear about goal setting and whatnot, but I've never done it. I suppose you've heard Mr. Davis talk about goal setting, huh? That I have. It's one of his favorite subjects. Well, what does he say? He must know a lot about goals to live in a place like he does. Oh, that he does, Michael, that he does. Okay, shoot then. Well, it's pretty simple stuff. I'm ready. Here it goes. Write it down. I don't have a pen. Charlie laughed. No, that's the advice. Write it down. Write your goal down. Michael laughed too. Oh, I thought you meant, never mind. Okay, so write my goals down. That's it? That's it. I told you it was simple. So what good does that do? Think about it, Michael. It does two things. First, in order to write it down, it means you have to have a goal in the first place, which at this point would be a great start for you. Secondly, there's a power in writing your goal down. It brings it into reality. One of the best things you can do is to write down 100 things you want to accomplish before you die. Just the process of deciding what they are is powerful. But when you get them written down, watch out, because now you're likely to achieve them. Well, why is that? Because now your mind is cognitively aware of them. Your mind then gets to work achieving them. That should be your first goal, to write down your 100 goals. All right, I can do that. Can't hurt. Here's something else Mr. Davis teaches that is important, Michael. He says that the major reason for setting a goal is for what it makes of you to accomplish it. What it makes of you will always be the far greater value than the goal you achieve. Mr. Davis always says, make $1 million, not for the $1 million, but for what you will have to become to make $1 million. That's pretty good advice. So the real goal is to let the goal make me a better person? That's exactly it, Michael. Hey, I think I'm getting the success thing. I think you are. It's exciting, isn't it? It sure is. I feel like I'm coming alive just hearing and talking about it, even though I haven't changed much yet. Yes, the power of change is exciting. You have a great future ahead of you. Yeah, I just wish I was already there. Well, as Mr. Davis also says frequently, you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. Yeah, I know that I can't become what I want overnight. I guess that's just so frustrating. I feel like I've wasted so many years and now I'll have to take a long road to be successful. I just don't know where to start. Start by changing your direction. You are where you are, but you don't have to stay there. Choose where you want to go and then build out your plan for getting there. How do I do that? That's where goals come in. Let's say, for example, that you want to have a certain life, a certain income, or a job in 10 years. Would you be able to dream something big for yourself to achieve in 10 years? Sure. Okay, then that's your long-range goal. Or you could make your long-range goal 5 years. Whatever is out there in the future that you want to achieve. Then you choose somewhere in the middle for your middle-range goal, say 5 years on a 10-year goal, and then a short-range goal for a year or two out. You might even have what Mr. Davis calls micro goals that are just months out. The key is that each one leads you to the final goal. Just decide what you want to do and then get started. That is one of the most powerful lessons in life. Chapter 5, The Proper Use of Time. I don't know, Charlie. I just don't have the time now to get going in the right direction. I'm swamped with work, home, a wife, kids. I just don't know where I would fit a goal in. These words have come from Mr. Davis's mouth on more than one occasion. We must all suffer from one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is discipline weighs ounces, while regret weighs tons. Very important words are those, Michael. I guess I don't get it. Well, think about your deathbed, Michael. There are certain things you have yet to do, but long to do, that if you don't achieve them during your lifetime, you will have deep regrets. There is one certainty, and that is that the end of your life will come, and sooner than you think. I'm an old man now, and I'm amazed by how fast life has gone by. For me, it's almost over. Luckily, I have lived well. I've done almost everything I desired. Yet so many men and women never even let themselves dream, and those who do, most of them never overcome their fear and strive for their dream. Then one day, they wake up on their deathbed, and there's nothing, not one single thing that they can do about it. Their bodies are frail, weak, and unwilling. Then they suffer from the crushing weight of the pain of regret. You see, Charlie continued, days are expensive. When you spend a day, you have one less day to spend, so make sure you spend each one wisely. How do you know if you're spending your days wisely? Michael asked. Mr. Davis would tell you that your day is being spent wisely if it is being spent in the best way possible. Every day has many opportunities, but only one best opportunity. Your best opportunities are those that align with your overall goals and should be what you spend your time on. Would that be how you describe your days, Michael? No, my days are spent getting by, making sure I get paid so I can pay the bills. And that is exactly the time management trap that most people get into. They spend their time on the urgent rather than the important. The urgent is a tyrant of a master that enslaves you if you let it. It is better to be the master of time rather than vice versa. It is important to be the designer of our lives. Michael, if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you will fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? What? Not much, Charlie said with a broad grin on his face. That's for sure, Michael said with a subtle laugh. Yes, Michael, something will master and something will serve. Either you run the day or the day runs you. Either you control your time or it controls you. Take your pick. Just then Michael's pager on his cell phone went off. He looked at it and then said, Well, the urgent is calling. I have to get going. Michael looked sincerely at Charlie. I really appreciate you taking the time to teach me this stuff, Charlie. You sure have gleaned a lot from Mr. Davis. It's great of you to pass it on to me. Thanks. And Michael was on his way to put out some unimportant fire. Chapter 6. Surround yourself with the best people. It had been 3 weeks since Michael and Charlie met at the diner, and Michael wanted to visit so he could share his achievement. When he got to 12 Pillars, he parked near the workshop and walked around to the back of the house by the pool like Charlie had told him to. There was old Charlie standing next to the pool in a ray of sunlight, dressed in his coveralls, holding a pool cleaning net. Hey, Charlie, Michael yelled from across the yard. Well, hello there, Michael. You're a few minutes early, just in time to help me clean the pool. So how are things? Pretty good. I have good news. Actually, two pieces of good news. One, Amy and I are doing even better, tending to the garden, you know. And secondly, I wrote down my 100 goals in life. Then I put them into the different categories, long-term, etc. It was pretty fun doing that. I'll bet. It's always fun to dream, and very motivating as well. Yeah, especially about my family, my career, my income, and places I want to travel. It was really enlightening to do it. How long did it take? Charlie asked. Oh, not long at all, maybe an hour and a half. But what was most amazing, and you said this would happen, is that when I wrote it down, my mind started thinking about how to make it happen. Once I crystallized the goal, my mind started trying to make it a reality. So here I am, ready for the next pillars of success. Can you teach them to me? I'd be happy to. Let's see. How about this one? Surround yourself with the best. Okay, what does that mean? Buy expensive things? No, not the best things, the best people. Surround yourself with winners, successful people who exhibit and live consistent to values and skills you want to acquire and develop. You see, the people in your life have an amazing power to influence your destiny. They have a deep effect on you. Mr. Davis says that you must constantly ask yourself these questions. Who am I around? What effect are they having on me? What have they got me reading? What have they got me saying? Where do they have me going? What do they have me thinking? And most importantly, what do they have me becoming? Then ask yourself the big question, is that okay? So you're talking about my friends? Your friends, your spouse, your coworkers, your family, all of the people we surround ourselves with. It's important to ask how they affect us. Since you mentioned your friends, let's start there. Okay, what do you mean? Well, they have a tremendous effect on you. Let's take a look at them. Tell me about your 3 closest friends. Oh, that's easy, because we just went out last Friday. There's John, Clark, and Tom. We've been friends since the 3rd grade. We go out almost every Friday night. Oh, that's good. And what do they do for a living? What do they do for fun? What do they like? Charlie asked. Let's see. John is in retail. He was going to college, but didn't like the structure, so he dropped out. Does he like his current job better than he did the structure? Good point, Michael said. No, he hates his job, but he's been there for over a decade and makes enough to cover his expenses. Kind of hard to quit now. In the corporate world, they call that golden handcuffs, yet I have a hard time using that term for the salary he probably makes. Tell me about Clark. Clark, well, he makes John look good. At least John has a job. Clark's been unemployed for about 2 years, just can't find anything he likes or that pays what he wants to make. I see, said Charlie, sounding unimpressed. And Tom? Tom's probably my best friend. We've been best friends since we met. We like the same things, enjoy hobbies together, etc. But it can be hard at times because he has quite a temper. A temper? Yeah, he can blow his stack at the drop of a hat. Yes, I see. Well, I think that you may need to make some adjustments in your friendships. You mean give up my friends? I wouldn't say that yet. But what I'm saying is that when you ask yourself the question, what effect do my friends have on me, you've got to be willing to take an honest look at what kind of influence they currently have on you. In other words, are they helping you grow in the direction you want? What if keeping your associations the same, not making room for expanding or any new associations or limiting your current relationships, meant the difference in becoming what you want and achieving the life of your dreams for you and your family? Influence is so subtle, it's like a little nudge, and each time you get together, there's one more nudge in the wrong direction, toward the wrong attitudes, down the path you don't want to be on. Michael, I know this is a touchy subject, and so many of us have friends who are nice people, often who intend well, but if the effect they have on us is negative, then it's up to us to make those tough choices in an effort to protect ourselves from the wrong influences. I guess I've never thought of it that way before. I've never given thought to how they were and how that might have affected me. Most people don't, Michael, so don't feel badly, but they're simply questions that can have a powerful influence on how your life turns out. Let me teach you one of Mr. Davis's principles that is very effective in helping people decide about their relationships. You see, every relationship you have is an association, and each association has either a positive, neutral, or negative effect on you. So a person who wants to achieve success has to constantly make a determination about what kind of relationship it is and how to approach that relationship. How do you do that, Michael asked. It's simple, really. You place every person you meet into one of 3 categories: disassociation, limited association, and expanded association. You simply ask yourself whether each person is someone you should stop associating with, limit your association with, or expand your association with. So I should do that with my friends? That's for you to decide, Michael. I would certainly say that given their life situation and such, that you don't want to expand your association with them. You're going in opposite directions. You then have to decide if you should limit your association with them or even disassociate with them. Michael, life is rarely simple, and at times we're faced with difficult decisions that if we avoid can cost us dearly in the future. But they've been my friends for decades, Michael argued. Are they friends of convenience? Charlie asked. Friends of convenience? I don't get it. I wonder if they aren't your friends because it was easier to continue the relationship with them than it was to pursue new relationships. Again, silence from Michael. Charlie was really pushing buttons now. Charlie continued, all along the path of life, you had points where you could have chosen to develop new relationships. You still can. Successful people look for relationships with other successful people who will push them, challenge them, and encourage them to become better. So how do you find people like that? I'm glad you asked, because it reminds me of something Mr. Davis says all of the time. He says to attract attractive people, you must be attractive. To attract powerful people, you must be powerful. To attract committed people, you must be committed. Instead of going to work on them, go to work on yourself. If you can become, you can attract. Michael was deep in thought about the people he admired and wished he could spend time with. Charlie interrupted his thought. And do you know what happens when you begin to hang around and associate with more successful people? What? A few things. First of all, you open yourself up to all sorts of new knowledge. Knowledge about how the world works, how business works, how to better your relationships. Second, you open up for yourself a vast new network. Their friends become your friends. Soon your whole business and sphere of influence has changed for the better. And lastly, and most importantly, your attitude changes. And 99% of life is attitude, Michael. So I can't have a positive attitude if I spend time with my old friends. Let's put it this way. Two things to think about. First, I've never seen anyone who was successful who spent much time with people who have bad attitudes. They surround themselves with winners, optimists, and people with positive attitudes. And secondly, everything you've done up until now and everybody you've associated with have added up to your current situation. In other words, maybe if you changed your associations, the results in your life and career would change. Michael knew in his heart that Charlie was right, but he didn't want him to be. Boy, Charlie, I feel like I'm learning so much. I've never heard these things before. And I admit, they're not easy words to hear, but they make sense. I just wish I'd learned these lessons before. Where's Mr. Davis been my whole life? At this last part, Michael was smiling. Oh, Mr. Davis has been around, but perhaps you just weren't ready. Ready? Yes, ready. Mr. Davis says that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Now you're ready. Your car stopped here one day, and I was available to teach you Mr. Davis's 12 Pillars of Success. Well, I am ready to learn now, that's for sure. Chapter 7. Be a Lifelong Learner. That's great, Michael, great. Charlie, who had been methodically taking leaves and small debris out of the pool, pulled the long pole out and placed it down on a specially made rack designed to hold it. Next to him was a bucket with small plastic bottles holding pool chemicals. He began to measure out the chemicals and pour them into the pool as he continued. You know, Mr. Davis's next pillar of success is about learning, so it is fortuitous that we have stumbled onto the topic. A successful person is always a lifelong learner. A lifelong learner? Yes. How many people do you know that graduated high school or college and then figured they knew everything they needed to know for life? He didn't wait for an answer. Too many. But I learned lots of good things in college. It isn't that you don't learn good things in college. You do. It's just that it isn't what will make you successful in life. Here's what Mr. Davis says. Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. You can graduate from your formal education, and the masses do, but the great writer Thoreau said that the masses, quote, lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the song still in them. And that, it seems, is exactly where you are right now, Michael. Charlie, quoting Henry David Thoreau. I'm impressed, Michael joked. Well, this old boy will surprise you from time to time, young man, Charlie said while looking at a bottle of chemicals, being ever so careful to get just the right amount. The point is that if you want to succeed in this life, formal education isn't the end-all. Self-education is the key. Okay, so what do you mean by self-education? Self-education is what you teach yourself. It's what you learn along the way so that you're constantly improving and growing. Most people don't continue to learn or grow, so that the very fact that you're doing so means you are well on your way to improving your life. Michael, Mr. Davis says if someone's going down the wrong path, he doesn't need motivation to speed him up. He needs education to turn him around. Learning is the beginning of wealth. Learning is the beginning of health. Learning is the beginning of spirituality. Searching and learning is where the miracle process all begins. Well, that education is self-education. Most of life is lived after your formal education. That means the rest is up to you. The state makes you go to school through 12th grade. Then most people choose to go through college, but the truly successful decide to learn for the rest of their lives. So how do they do that? There are a few mainstays to learning that anyone can use to improve their lives, Michael. The first is to read books. The second is to learn from successful people by observation. And the third is to constantly reflect on your own experiences and learn what went right and what went wrong. Well, I know that the book thing isn't going to work. Charlie looked up at Michael in disbelief. The book thing? He asked. Yeah, you know, reading books. I know myself well enough to know that I'm not going to be reading any books anytime soon. You're kidding me, right? Charlie asked. No, I haven't read a book in years. Well, there you go. That right there is a significant part of the problem. Not reading books? Certainly. Charlie put the chemicals down and motioned for Michael to join him sitting in a couple of chairs at poolside. Here, sit down. This is a serious point, Michael. They both sat down and Michael asked, what's the big deal about books? It seems like everybody writes a book. It's just a big money-making scam. What can you learn from a book anyway? Besides that, books cost so much money. When you go to the bookstore, some of those books are $20 or $30. Charlie knew this was going to be a tough sell. Michael, if I may be blunt, books have been, are, and will continue to be one of the greatest learning tools in human history. As for the cost, Mr. Davis, a man who has been extraordinarily successful, always says that it isn't what the book costs, it's what it'll cost you if you don't read it. How will it cost me if I don't read it? Michael asked. It will cost you in many ways. In fact, I believe that your attitude towards books has already cost you a decade or two of your life. You see, when we read books, we open ourselves to vast new worlds to explore and understand. Have you ever wanted to sit down and have dinner with the great leaders or famous thinkers? You can when you read their books. You open yourself to new ideas, and new ideas are the seeds that grow in our hearts and minds, and when applied, become our achievements and successes. Michael, how will you ever grow and expand if you aren't consistently and proactively pursuing knowledge and ideas that will move your life forward? I guess I've never thought of it that way. From now on, you must think of it that way. So Mr. Davis is a big reader, huh? That he is. Almost a book a week for 40 years. And that is where he gets his wisdom. Before you leave, I'll give you a copy of a book list that he has written. I have a few copies of it in my workshop. I don't know. Michael, I insist. You can set a goal of reading one of the books before we meet again. In fact, I hate to be harsh, but I won't schedule the meeting until you've read one of the books. That does seem harsh. Michael, I do it with a good heart. I so believe in reading that I do not believe you can move forward without it. Really? Absolutely, Charlie said with conviction. You must also learn from people who are succeeding. That is the idea of association we talked about earlier. And we all must learn from ourselves as we live life making mistakes and achieving victories. Well, I've learned so much from Mr. Davis and you, Charlie, that I'm willing to try anything that you suggest. And I imagine I can always go down to my library and pick up most of the books for free. I'll bet you can. Charlie stood up. Listen, I know that you probably have things to do, and I have to finish up with this pool and then get about running some errands. So let's go up to the workshop so I can dig up one of those sheets with Mr. Davis's recommended books on it. As they walked, Michael noticed that Charlie looked like he'd been losing some weight. You're getting a little skinny there, Charlie. You've been losing weight? Charlie answered without turning around. Oh, a little, perhaps. Well, don't waste away on me. He also noted that Charlie's gait had slowed a little since the first time he'd met him. When they reached the workshop, Michael waited in the main area while Charlie went back into his office area. Soon Charlie emerged with a single sheet of paper. He handed it to Michael, who looked at it. On it was a simple list under the heading, Books Everyone Should Read. Michael scanned the list. Okay, this looks interesting. Which one should I start with? I'll make that one easy, Charlie said as he opened a drawer in an old metal desk that had various tools sitting on it. He reached in and pulled out an old, worn, and obviously well-read copy of The Magic of Thinking Big. This one is free, so you won't be able to make an excuse because of the cost, he said with a sly smile. Michael reached out and took it. Okay, then, The Magic of Thinking Big it is. I will definitely read it, and when I'm done, you will continue to teach me the pillars of success? That I will, Michael, that I will. As Michael pulled out of the gates that day, he noticed a new feeling in him. He felt such warm feelings for the old man, Charlie. He was almost becoming a father to him, which was fine with him because he'd lost his own father when he was 10. He never got to learn those lessons from an older man. He was cherishing the time he got to spend with Charlie, even if it was learning the wealthy Mr. Davis's pillars of success secondhand. Michael looked at the book lying on the passenger seat. Okay, I guess it's time to think big. Chapter 8. All of Life is Sales. It had taken a month, but Michael finished the book that Charlie had made required reading. Michael had enjoyed it more than he thought he would. Now he was excited to get back to 12 Pillars and meet with Charlie again. He was getting addicted to this personal development stuff. After a brief conversation about what Michael had learned from the magic of thinking big, Charlie moved quickly